Hey, have you ever thought about how to find you? How to find the true you? As if the true you have somehow got lost, or somehow you misplaced it somewhere. Well, that's what we're going to look at in this video, is how to find the true and real you. Check it out. Hi, I'm Brett, your favorite shrink. And again, welcome back. Welcome back to My 5 Minds. This is where we're learning a new psychology. In the past, we were calling it systems. Now we're starting to call it something different. We're looking at yoga psychology, or the psychology of yoga. And this topic of who are you really? Who's your true self, your true character, is a perfect topic to look at, a kind of a contrast between our traditional way of seeing things and seeing ourselves, and this new way of seeing ourselves in kind of a, not even new, but an ancient way of seeing our truths. So let's play. Now, I always like to tell stories because I think stories are helpful illustrations of what we are trying to look at. And so today I want to talk about the story of Kelly. Kelly comes in and she asks me this very same question. How do I find myself? I feel like I'm lost. And what she was talking about was that she had so many emotions, so many feelings, so many thoughts, so many different experiences, different habits, behaviors, patterns in her life. It just felt like it was a confusing mess. And she felt like that none of it felt true. None of it felt like who she really was. And so she came in and she asked this question. How do I find myself? How do I know who I really am in all of the stuff in my head? Well, it's a great question. And I think in a time past, I think I would have answered the question differently than I did. I think in the time past, I would have answered the question, well, you are whoever you want to be. Or, you get to choose. You get to pick. And the idea there is pretty simple, that there's no destiny. There's no you are block, or you are X, or you are Z. You can be what you want to be. And I like that idea. I like that sentiment. I like that choice and empowerment that I would give patients in the past. But I think there's actually a better answer. And the better answer, it's coming out of this new psychology. It comes from this idea that you are not your psychology. Isn't that weird? The first thing that you want to consider in yoga psychology is that you are not your psychology. You're not your psychology. You're not your feelings. You're not your past. You're not your habits. You're not your thoughts. You're not any of that. And in fact, you are separate from all of that. You are the observer of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and your behaviors. And it's only being the observer of those things can you actually change them. So let me show you again, using Kelly as our story, what we're meaning. So I said, Kelly, I know you have a lot of thoughts. I know you have a lot of feelings. I know there's a lot going on and it seems super confusing. But what if you play with me for a minute? And I gave her a consideration. I said, Kelly, what if you play with this idea, like I just shared with you, that you aren't any of those things. She kind of looked at me like, what? What? Okay, if I'm not any of those things, what am I? And I said, well, let's pick with the idea that you are the observer of all those things. And I said, for a minute, I want you to do a body scan. I want you to go inside yourself and I want you to look and see what's going on inside. Pick a thought, pick a feeling, pick a experience, a sensation within your body, anything you want. Doesn't matter. And I want you to notice it and tell me about it. And so she went inside, she did a kind of a close her eyes, kind of inward reflection. And she said, I feel anxiety. And it was probably from that question I was asking her, go inside, see if you can find something. Because she didn't know what to find. But she said, I feel this feeling of anxiety. I said, great. I want you to notice that feeling of anxiety. Where do you feel it? She went inside again, looked again, and there she felt it. Kind of in her solar plexus. Perfect. Now I want you to notice that anxiety there in your solar plexus. What's it feel like? Again, she went inside and she noticed it was kind of prickly, kind of hot, kind of a burn. Okay. As you notice your anxieties, you notice that kind of heat, that burn of energy. What color would you think it is? Again, as you go inside, you think about it for a minute. Red. Yeah, fire red. Definitely fire hot red. Okay, perfect. Now, I want you to notice, are you first person in that anxiety? Are you that anxiety right now? Are you in your stomach? Or are you third person? Are you the one looking at the anxiety and noticing it's hot and prickly, noticing it's in your solar plexus, seeing it's red? She took a breath or two and began to reflect. Kind of a curious, puzzled look comes over across her face. I'm watching it. I'm seeing it. That's great. Now, as you watch and observe and see your anxiety, how does that change your anxiety? It doesn't feel as intense. Perfect. And what would happen if you took the observer and you started to observe more of you? Not only your solar plexus, but maybe your whole torso. Back up even more and see if you can notice your back as well. See if you can notice your arms too. Each time I would give her an instruction, she'd go inside and she'd begin to kind of, in her awareness, begin to pull back farther and farther and farther and farther. And as each time she would do it, each time she would look at her anxiety and observe it from a more and more distant point of view, she could feel it felt better and felt better. And so I asked her, well, what do you think? Are you your anxiety? Or are you the one watching, seeing, observing your anxiety? And for her, the answer was very clear. She was seeing her anxiety. And when she could see her anxiety and not be her anxiety, which is a super powerful skill in yoga psychology, she could separate from it. She could detach from it. She could feel better, not feel consumed or swallowed in it. And as she started to become more detached, we started playing games. We started playing with changing the color, changing the shape, changing the size, changing the location. We started to move her anxiety. And as we did, as we moved it around, began to manipulate it, it too felt better and better and better. By the end of the session, she had no anxiety. And at the end of the session, she was calm. She was relaxed. And then I asked her, who are you? Are you the anxiety? Or are you the one that observes the anxiety? And it was clear. It wasn't a guess or kind of like, well, here's the right answer. She knew. She could feel it. It was a visceral truth. I'm the observer. Who are you? Are you your thoughts? No. Are you your behaviors? No. Are you your past? No. And it was really an emotional moment for her because she could feel all of those things were her. She was letting them define who she was. But now, by being able to step back, by being the observer of all of those things, she had control of those things. And that's what I want for you. As you think about who you are, I want you to think this new consideration. What if? What if you're not? What if you're not your thoughts, your feelings, your habits, your behaviors, your patterns? What if you're not your past? What if you're not any of that? What if who you are is the observer of all that? There's a great Scientific America article that came out that talked about what is consciousness. And they talked about how consciousness isn't a thing inside your brain. It's not one of the four basic minds we talked about: left, right, neocortex, limbic system, or brainstem. It's not located specifically in any of those. But this article talked about how brain physiology is starting to notice that consciousness is the sum of all of those. As we start to become able to pull the different parts of our brain in unison, as they begin to start to become connected through mindfulness, through consciousness, we become a different thing altogether. A thing that is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's what I want to suggest for Kelly, and that's what I want to suggest for you. That you are not any of that. You're not your thoughts. You're not your feelings. You're not your past. You're not your bad habits. You are the one that watches them. And as the one you're watching, you're able to change them. And that is super powerful. Again, if you like this, if you thought it was useful, I want to hear comments. I want to see some thumbs. And if you want more, if you want some more resources about learning about you and changing you with this new psychology that we're creating, go to my website, BrettRWilliams.com.